What's going on, guys? I want to welcome you back. It's about a month into season 1, and you know what that means? It's tier list time. And I gotta ask, since the last season, what the hell happened? Rocket Raccoon is in every damn match now. It's like he's on a world tour, and I don't even want to talk about the triple support meta right now. If I hear
disappear
one more time, I'm gonna lose my shit. Like, honestly, I just want to know how we even got here from last season. And the hero meta is so shaken up that some heroes now are so bad that you're basically telling your team you're throwing if you pick them, whereas there's others that are so good that you get free wins just for showing up. Now, due to popular demand, guys, just like last time, we have not one but 2 tier lists for y'all today. We've got one for the low ranks, where basically it's a free-for-all circus, and one for the high ranks. Let's jump in. All right, so let's go to get this thing started. Again, left side is low rank, right side is going to be high rank. We're going to rank them both at the same time. Couple of things to note is the order that they're in within the tiers doesn't matter. I'm going more in alphabetical order to make it look a bit better. And then also, Rivals is a very different game than a lot of games out there. You typically have a nice little bell curve in tier lists, but in Rivals, there's a lot of good/broken heroes. That's the flavor of the game. That's what makes it great. So it's a little top heavy compared to what you usually see in tier lists. All right, guys, first up, Adam Warlock. It doesn't matter how badass his skins are in the season pass. He's kind of the support that is always picked below the rest. You know, nowadays, at least for me, it feels like his res people are catching on to very easily, and they just dive the res and people die. He's okay. He's pretty good in triple support meta, and you guys are going to see a lot of this list is based off that because we're seeing that in a ton of games. And so he's a nice filler support, but he's not that anchor that you need for the team. The dude is way worse in lower ranks than he is higher ranks because of the aim dependency, and then also the way his abilities work and all. And he just he doesn't feel super great right now. I'm going to put him in D in that low tier, and then I'm going to go ahead and put him in B for high tier. That passive is still very good to get the second life, and then if you have good Star Lords, you can roll with that. At top, like one above all tier, he's really good, but for the majority, this is about where he's at. Next up, Black Panther. And if you guys recall my last tier list, I had him towards the top. Dude is amazing for just solo carrying games. But that was the previous meta. We are now in this triple support meta, and the dude got a huge nerf at the end of season 0. And then also, he's having a tough time in the triple support. They know how to keep each other up. I gotta tell you, though, you always have those Black Panthers that could just wreck your supports, and there's no amount of there's nothing you can do for them, and you just feel horrible. And because of that, I'm gonna give him a much higher rank in low tier, around A. He can carry a lot easier. People don't know how to communicate as good, and even though the Black Panther's skill level is a little down in lower tier, he's much better there. It pains me to put him in B tier, but that's probably where he's at the moment. He could go higher if you're cracked. Definitely understand that. He can carry. But given the current meta and how, like, just the game's being played out, I'm going to put him in B. All right, so Black Widow, I could almost just play the same clip as I said the last 2 tier lists. She got a lot of buffs, so you got to hand it to her. But this game is so dive heavy. It's so quick and fast. And Black Widow is, if anything, just a compliment to an already good team. She doesn't feel like she does a huge difference with her role alone. Her ultimate is not a game changer by any sense of the word. She just sucks, man. She's not even worth talking about, if I'm being honest. I mean, guys, she has a 41% win rate. It's awful. I mean, she's got to be the definition of F tier in general. There's just no wiggle room for either or. High, low, F tier. Okay, guys, so Bruce Banner is going to represent our first S tier, and there's a lot of reasons behind this. First of all, he is the one that's responsible for the cracked team up for Iron Man and Doctor Strange, which we'll talk about them. But you've got that, making those heroes much better. In fact, insanely lethal. His ban rate actually is like 50%. The guy's banned almost all the time in higher rank play. People don't want to deal with him. He has a great dive. Really good Hulks know what they're doing and can do just crazy work. It's kind of tough to rank him in low elo just because of how bad people play the Hulk, but then he's not banned, so you get to use Iron Man and his team up more. I'm going to go B tier, even though it could be lower, but he's, you could just have anybody play the Hulk and then have 2 very good Iron Man Strange players kind of do the rest. But in high elo, it's a easy S tier. Okay, so Captain America is, at first, when the season began with his buffs, I thought he was doing pretty good. The triple support kind of helps him out too. The triple support can keep him up forever, but the problem is the guy cannot get kills against other teams with triple supports. Even the best of the best Captain America has stated that he isn't that great right now, especially in this meta. He has a very high skill cap to learn, and also that is just not a huge payoff. In comparison, he's kind of like the Adam Warlock for tanks, right? There's just better picks, more dependable, and obviously a higher win rate, and just better for the team. I just feel like my Steve Rogers is always ahead of us, not doing a whole lot. He's not dying, but that's about it. And finally, his ultimate is still just not a game changer, right? You have things like Magneto that have this insane swing potential, and just when Captain does his, it's like, all right, he's still surviving. Cloak and Dagger. This is yet another easy, in my opinion, S tier in both categories, high elo, low elo. You've got Auto-Aim, right? That makes him a very high-picked hero. In fact, they're like the highest-picked support in the game currently. And they're also one of the most banned supports because they got so many buffs that were people were surprised with. They get an ultimate what seems like every single fight, or at least every other. The ultimate can keep everybody up. It gives you space. You can do great damage. Cloak is pretty much a better Scarlet Witch. You're going to see Cloak and Dagger in all of your games until they ban her. But then she's not always worth that ban. And so she's an easy S tier for multiple reasons. Definitely one of the better supports. All right, Doctor Strange. I've had him in S tier, I think, for all of my tier lists. And he's going to stay there, especially in this meta. Right now, again, triple supports. You're going to hear me talk about this. But an AoE stun is very important to slow everything down, try to kill them so they can't just keep each other up. His shield, his presence, his teleports, his damage. It's all good. It's all S tier, and he's going to be that for both high and low. All right, next up, Groot. It's time to own up about me being wrong about this guy. I've always had Groot kind of in the middle of the pack for Vanguards, and I was dead ass wrong. He is super important in this meta. Again, that AoE stun. His ultimate is a huge setup for things like, Moon Knight and Namor. But on top of this, he also slows down the team a lot, in payload maps. It forces them to change their picks to be able to burn through, the Groot walls and whatnot. In low elo, I'm going to put him a little bit lower in B just by how he's played. Even though Wolverines are there too, they're not banned. So Wolverines can just shred through Groot walls. Makes it a lot tougher for him. High elo, top of A. I think he's one of the better tanks, especially right now. All right, guys. So next up, Hawkeye is one of those that I just wasn't expecting. The fall of Hawkeye. I mean, you could make a video on it. This guy was the highest banned hero last season. His carry potential, what he could do. You would think he'd be way better to just get those insta kills, but he got the definition of the ban hammer, and the dude is just not good. 43% win rate across all ranks, very bad. He doesn't get banned. It's less than 1%, so people aren't afraid of him. He's niche in a couple of maps, but just doesn't have that same presence. And because of that, I'm going to be putting him in D tier in low elo because he's also aim dependent, and probably C in high. I might want to put him higher, but the numbers, they just don't lie. And I also never see him anymore. Which moves us on to the other GOAT in the DPS department for Season 0, and that is going to be Hela. Hela also took a little bit of a dip, just overall the mid-range snipers in the game. They said that they wanted to adjust them. The thing with Hela is she is really dominant in a lot of matchups, but she's also just not being favored as much as some of the highest DPS in the game. Her ultimate's still great, but people have figured that out pretty heavily. Because the aim dependency, gonna drop her down to B for the low elo, but definitely still A tier for high. She's good. She's not the dominant force that she was, but obviously somebody with cracked aim should be able to carry very well, and then her team up with Loki and Thor is still just top tier. So the first new hero we've got on the list, Invisible Woman, and if you guys saw my video talking about the easiest characters to master and the hardest, Invisible Woman is pretty hard to play, all things considered. She's a very good sidekick healer, but her ultimate is one of the best in the game, and her kind of skill ceiling is so high that in high elo, I've got to be honest, guys, I've got her towards the top. I think I'm going to put her in S tier. I mean, she's got a 35% pick rate, which is crazy, and the ultimate is a hard counter to things. Her abilities, again, the push and pull allows your team to have a lot better coordination. She feels like one of the most perfect supports. B tier for low, S tier for high. All right, next up, Iron Fist. And guys, Iron Fist, I just always want to rank higher because there's that, one guy that just destroys in your lobby and you're like, wow, he's a good hero. And then you realize he's not. He's just not at all. He's better in low rank. I mean, probably like a C tier there. People aren't as good, with dealing with him. But he needs something different. And I don't know what they need to add to him because you can't make him too good. He'd be everywhere. He just is probably the last pick that I would choose over the melee characters. I have him in just bottom F in high elo. You never see him. If somebody one tricks him, okay, every now and then, but there's just better heroes to do what he does. All right, so Iron Man, Tony Stark, he dominated Season 0. As we know, that team up is insane, and that's why we put Hulk so high. But on his own, I'm going to put him in B tier for the high elo and A tier for low. In low, you can't, ban, Hulk, and so he's a lot better there. But Hela doesn't get banned anymore, and Storm is a great counter to him as well, and so that keeps Iron Man in check. When you had Hawkeye and Hela banned all the time, he could run free, but it's a lot tougher now, and, not to spoil it, but Storm just does his job better. So this feels about right for him, even though I do like him a lot and what he brings to rivals. Jeff, the baby Landshark, 42% win rate, the lowest in the game. And this is one of those eyeball tests that to me feels wrong. It feels wrong to have him this low. And in fact, I actually have him higher. I have him in D tier for high elo and just F tier for low elo. His ultimate, it got, first of all, people learned how to play around it a lot better. You can shield around it. You can just escape. People are prepped for it. And it just got a little bit worse altogether. He just doesn't carry that same it factor that the other supports have. And then even though, yes, he can heal when he swallows people up, most of the time it ruins those people's plans. I get that he heals, but, as a Wolverine, I don't want to be swallowed up by my own Jeff. But then on the other side, you have Rocket, who doesn't have a defensive ultimate as well, but he's in a much better position, kind of taking over the small animal support role, if you will. So, yeah, Jeff is not good. All right, guys, you came here for the hot takes. Here we go. Loki, my opinion, S tier for high elo, no question, and B tier probably for low elo. He is the engine, the cog of the triple support meta. His damage, his ability to copy ults, usually defensively, but sometimes he can, copy something offensively to get massive value. Flat out, 2 Cloak and Dagger ults is just the bane of everybody's existence. He's really solid across the board. He was my main in Season 0 and still one of my most played heroes now. I gave him an A tier last time. I've been rising him up the ranks. It's time to put the respect of him as one of the best. He single-handedly won the championship for Season 0 because of what he did against that team. His rune stones counter most of everything. It's like its own defensive ult. You can stop something like a highly picked Psylocke, plus a number of other heroes like Iron Man's ult. The dude is elite. All right, next up we've got you. In the, what is that? Oh, not subscribed tier. Would you look at that? All right, so Luna Snow still is hit with that 22% ban rate. Still a hero that, everybody doesn't want to play against. And for that reason, and not just for that reason, she's S tier, both high and low. Her healing is still very solid, able to give, that kind of remote heal to someone that flanks, but then have tremendous healing and damage for your main team going up, the main path. Her ultimate is still cracked. That's why she's, nerfed all the time, especially in a freaking triple support meta. She's that anchor that we keep talking about. Luna Snow, still one of the best, if not the best support in the game. Kind of right there with Cloak and Dagger. Okay, so Magik. This is going to be a conversation. So here's the thing, guys. I just did a whole mastery guide on her. If you guys want to know how to perfect her, had her amazing on the rank 1 Magik. Here's the thing, though. The hero hot list had her as the #1 win rate duelist in the game. She's never banned. On top of that, current season, her stats is only under 1 hero that's a DPS that's banned all the time in Storm. Magik is, even with the numbers, I think eyeball test people are going to say she doesn't deserve to be an S tier, but the thing is, Magik is dominant. She's dominant. If you get good at her, she's going to carry games. Wolverine mains, they go to Magik because he's banned a lot. Her ultimate can one-shot squishies, even in their ultimate, so she could get a charge-up slash and dash into them. Because of that buff she got, she can, kill people through the ultimate, which is super important. She's kind of a soft tank, very distraction-heavy, and a good Magik knows when to get in and out and can just flat-out carry a team. This might be a hot take, but numbers-wise, you got to listen to it. S tier for both. Okay, next up we got Magneto, and he's been historically an A tier tank for me. And I've got him that in the low elo, but I've got him definitely there in the S tier for the high elo. Right now in this meta, Magneto has one of the few ultimates that can flat out kill, just like we just talked about with Magik. Kill support through the ultimate. Cloak and Dagger, Luna. You throw that big ball on top of them, they're dead, right? Very good survivability as well, and able to protect himself and the team forever. Might be probably one of the best solo tanks right there with Doctor Strange. And it's just, he just stays with the team well. He's such a good hero at high rank. I think he's one of the best solo carries if you're just trying to, main a tank and climb up the ranks. It should be Magneto. Very strong, 54% win rate. Now we move on to Mantis, and it's funny. I have nothing bad to say about Mantis outside of I'm not seeing her as much. And her ultimate is a little less good than someone like Invisible Woman. I think I would rather have Cloak and Dagger and Invisible Woman on my team than Mantis, and it's not a knock against her. She's elite. I'm going to put her in A tier. She's like high A tier, almost S tier, but she's a little below that. I think she's a tough one to rank from what I've seen in the win rates and what people say about her and in my own games. But she's just a little bit behind the top supports. Mr. Fantastic, our other new hero to hit the scene. And I know when his trailer came out, man, people were like, a little weird, but I dig him. And that's kind of where he's at. Now, I think he's a bit of a sleeper. I think he's going to get better over time. He's not going to be the next Wolverine by any means, but I'm going to have a little bit of a hot take. I think he is A tier in low elo. He's the best duelist in the game. To kill, he's so hard to kill. What he does, his survivability for his team, he's such a soft tank. He's pretty much a vanguard. His ultimate is, what's another word for just like complete garbage? He's so bad. His ultimate is just, it's trolling almost. And if they were to fix that ultimate, I think he could be really, really good. In low elo, he's much harder to deal with. In high elo, he falls off tremendously. Probably C tier for that. But I see a world where he does climb up. Okay, Moon Knight. First of all, I just watched the series of this. It was crazy, man. If you haven't seen it, go ahead and check it out. It made me want to watch it because of it. I don't know how I didn't end up watching it, but really good. Anyway, Moon Knight in Rivals. I think he's an S tier in low elo by far. So good in low elo. How people group up, the onks, the ultimate we'll get to. And then probably high A tier in high elo. Moon Knight, his ultimate now is so stupid good. His ultimate is so strong to team wipe. It's one of the few that can team wipe through the triple supports. He can build it up insanely quick with the way that people group up. His damage is always solid. He should pretty much always have very high damage. His 1v1 dueling is horrible if someone rushes him. Like a good Psylocke is going to take care of him. But if Moon Knight knows how to kind of look for alternate routes and flank and look around and get value out of that ultimate, you should always win a payload by just, dropping a good time ultimate with Groot, Doctor Strange. That's how you climb. Very good DPS. All right, next up is Namor. And another one of those, kind of like Cloak and Dagger, got a buff. People don't know why. He is obviously the anti-flank hero. If you have a Spider-Man, you guys have all been in the lobby with a cracked Spider-Man, and he's just spamming ban Namor. Ban him. Come on, we can win. I'll carry. Because Namor does shut down Wolverine, Magik, Spider-Man very well. If Luna is there too, that slow turret is dominant. And he can play offense, defense. His ultimate, the whale, can one-shot. I think Namor is still somehow not played enough and is one of the best DPS right now in Rivals. Probably A tier for both. I'm going to put him in. Not quite S tier, but right there. If Luna is not banned, which she is, 1 in every 4 games, he's S tier. Solid. Okay, so Peni Parker is a weird one to rank. Okay, so if you look at win rates and how she works across ranks, she is S tier in low elo. She's one of the best tanks in low elo. The amount of people that just run headfirst into your mines is insane as Peni, especially plat and below. Now, high elo falls off tremendously, probably C tier. Now, a great Peni can really dominate, but people at high elo know how to play against her so much more. They target the nest, they target her. She has no escapability, but she has infinite ammo, constant pressure, good sustain. I still love her and is one of the best low elo tanks. But with that being said, think about like Doctor Strange's ultimate and then think about Peni's. There's just it's tough to compare the two. Psylocke is going to be an A tier for both. I think Psylocke is still very good. She didn't get, hit with a nerf, but people do know how to play against her a lot better. The way that she flanks and or plays with the team is both at one of the highest levels. Her ultimate is just best for drawing out support ultimates. Like, that's her main role, but if you can, get a good pick on one of them, it's always solid. People don't know how to group up better. Loki hard counters her ultimate. The clones are awful, and his pick rate's very high. But she's still good. She's still elite. She's not at the top, but definitely A tier deserving. All right, I've been waiting for this one, guys. Rocket Raccoon. I don't know if anybody was expecting the explosion of this guy in season 1, but here we are, 54% win rate. He's got a 36, nearly 40% pick rate. It's so stupid. And it's mainly because the package of Punisher, Winter Soldier, and Rocket is ran all the time. Plus, he's very easy brain off healing. There's the guy that got to Grandmaster only pressing the heal button on him. He's hard to hit. He just never dies. And I think that is what is the best thing about him. You don't want your supports to die a lot, and he doesn't die a lot. And that's solid. Good team up, good healing. I get that he has an offense ultimate, and that's not as good. Triple support, he's insane there. Just knowing when to flex off him, like if you need that other defensive one, then definitely. And in payloads, he's not as good, but I would say he's A tier for a high elo, and the dude is S tier, definitely, for low elo. That package deal with the DPS is amongst the best. Scarlet Witch, C tier for low, F tier for high. They need to do something about this hero. She just doesn't cut it, guys. There are a couple people that are good at Scarlet Witch. It's fine. You could do better at low elo because just period people aren't as good with dealing with her. She needs almost like a small damage reduction when she's in her ultimate, or just something to make her a bit more lethal. Make everybody focus her. They already do, but give her a bit more of a fighting shot. Her team up with Magneto is good and all, but she's never picked. When she's picked, her win rate is low. I've got Scarlet Witch sadly towards the bottom. Alrighty, so next up we've got Spider-Man. And listen, if you're like the best of the best, right? You got the Lord icon, let's get sticky. It doesn't really, it doesn't matter all that much. Your team's got to play with you a lot, and quite frankly, there's just better dive heroes. Not saying he's not good in certain situations, but right now for the meta, I kind of have him in the same spot for both for different reasons. I'm going to have him in D tier, which is I think the lowest that I've ranked Spider-Man. In low elo, just the skill's not there and the coordination. And in high elo, there's just better picks most of the time. Him and Venom can go up a couple tiers together, or at least one tier, with the team up. That team up doesn't happen all the time. In fact, let's just get right to the next hero. Him and Squirrel Girl that team up's insane. Like, that makes her way better, and I don't even think this is a hot take, all right? I think she's A tier for both low and high elo. Her barraging and pressure that she puts on with her explosions that she has, and her CC and her ult now is really good for getting that backline. I think she's pretty damn good now. And like the roles that she serves is solid for the meta right now. You're going to get a lot of poke damage, and her ultimate charges really fast, but you break shields, you put, constant pressure into groups, kind of like Moon Knight, but you can do it from afar. And you can perfect where you shoot those to perfectly land in the hot spots of every map. I gotta make a video on this eventually. Moving right along, we've got Star-Lord, who is gonna go down a little bit since the last time we've ranked him. He's gonna go down to B tier at high elo, C tier and low elo. And I like what he does. I think his skill ceiling is very high, and with Adam Warlock at the top of the top, great pick, can't go wrong with him. He kind of suffers, though, guys, in this triple support meta right now. Invisible Woman having a 35% pick rate hurts because she just single-handedly counters his ultimate. His ultimate's kind of like Psylocke, where you can trigger other supports to get their ultimates going. But again, for like what his role is on the team, I just think he falls a little bit below some of these other duelists right now. Okay, so we're here now, right? And this is the beauty of buffs and nerfs that happen every single season. Storm, once the laughingstock of rivals. There was no hot takes there. Everybody kind of agreed Storm was not that great. Well, they made her great. She's insane right now. Her win rate is through the roof if you even get to play her, because she's banned all of the time. The thing is, her ultimate is so good for destroying and getting that objective done, right? Pushing the cart further, getting the point, separating the team. It's hard to kill her through it, and she charges it that much faster because her damage and travel time is that much better. She's like a support and a DPS is almost a must pick if she's available, kind of like the Hela Hawkeye of last season. Her ban rate is, again, through the roof, so you don't get to play her much, but is the definition of top tier. S tier for both high and low elo. She's probably going to get hit with a nerf of some kind. My expectation for the next patch, she's a little bit too good at the moment. Which takes us to the Punisher, and people always get mad. It's the Punisher. That's why I have him placed here instead of Punisher. Here's the deal with this guy. I've got him in A tier for both, and you could argue even better in low elo. Combining what is the most picked team up at the moment because of bans and the situation that the meta's in, Punisher and Bucky with a Raccoon, you guys have seen that on the enemy team, on your team. Sometimes it comes down to how effective those three are because they dominate. You almost always should have top damage by a long shot with the infinite ammo that Rocket supplies, and then his ultimate in general, and just how good your aim is. Punisher is going to, kind of scale with how good you are as an aimer, but the dude, he's good. He's definitely an A tier in both. All right, Thor is a bit of a tricky one, and there might be some agreement on here. This is one of those you're going to see a big separation from low to high. I've got him at S tier, I know, in low ranks because of how good his carry potential is and his self-survivability, and really just not understanding him. He falls off a bit, a good amount in high elo. He's going to go to B tier in high elo. Because once you get better, it's very readable what he's doing, right? The awakened state, avoiding that, his ult's better, but still very predictable and, able to get out of the way. He's self-shielding, and so he can absorb a lot of hits, but he doesn't have a shield, so he's that off-tank. And there's just better choices, I feel like, in high elo, but in low elo and even in the diamond, the guy stomps really well, but the higher you get, the worse Thor gets, if that makes sense. I had a tough time placing Venom. I'm going to be honest, guys. I have him in B tier for high elo, and I have him in D tier for low elo. If you just look at the statistics, Venom in low tiers is awful. One of the worst heroes, actually. People just die. They don't know how to play him. And it's not just they don't know how to play him, the team doesn't know how to keep him alive or play with him. Like, dive comps in general do worse in low elo, and Venom is obviously one of those characters. He's easy to pick up, so he's inviting to play, but he just doesn't deliver like the other tanks, at least in the low ranks. But in high ranks, I've got him at like top of B. You could argue he goes higher. Yeah, with the right dive comp, the dude's really solid. He's way more tanky. His ultimate is good. A good Venom can last forever, which is legit. And I love having a Lord Icon Venom on my team, but this feels about right. All right, last two guys. Winter Soldier is our highest picked duelist in the game. Storm is banned, so he is the highest at 27% out of all the duelists. Very high pick rate. And I would rather have a Punisher most of the time with the Rocket team up, if I'm being honest. But we've all had those Buckies that hits that ultimate, gets the full team wipe, and you're sitting there in your role, whether it be DPS, Vanguard, Strategist, and you're like, I wasn't doing enough. But that Bucky is, right? Like, he's got obviously some of the best carry potential in the game. The grabbing and disrupting tanks is always solid too, with Wolverine being banned a lot. But a bad Bucky stands out a ton. With all that being said, it's a tough one to place. I think in high elo, he's A tier. I think people know how to play him at that point, and he just gets the most out of his kit. Obviously, with Rocket, good team up. And then in the lower elos, I got him in B tier. He's not quite what, he is. And just the team working around him isn't the same. And last but not least, guys, Wolverine. If you guys don't know, I just did a mastery guide with rank 1 team captain. Took 2 weeks to get out. The thing is pumped full of how to play this guy to the fullest degree. That being said, you don't get to play him much because he has a 45% ban rate. People know to get rid of him so that they can run 2 tanks. If you have a Wolverine, you can't do that, right? Wolverine is obviously the pick that's gone up a ton, and the credit has been due to him. He's an S tier, no question hero in high elo. He still takes a lot of skill to play. People think they're good. They're not. But he's still an S tier at the top of the ranks. In low elo, I've got him at like B tier. Listen, he is hard to play, but you get to play him, number one. But also, just once you figure out the basic of his mechanic of tank killing, he does, obviously pretty good, and you can just carry. I mean, if you're a good player, you can go from bronze to diamond just with Wolverine, No question. I did it this season. So here it is, guys. This is the whole list. I want to stop and first say, if you skip to this moment, hello. I understand it completely. If you're confused by any of these placements, it's fine. You didn't watch the video. So just go back and go ahead and check out why I ranked some of them where. But also, this is what I love. Obviously, comments down below. You guys are going to hate some of these rankings. Some of you guys will love it. You know, in my opinion, what comments do I get the most here? I think Spider-Man, Peni, Black Panther. We're going to see a lot of comments on there. Maybe Iron Fist, a couple, cracked Iron Fist players are going to think you should go higher. But this feels about right after talking with the highest ranked players, looking at the stats, my own experience. I don't expect a lot of this to change. I'll, of course, do a end of season 1 tier list, as we always do here. And we get the Thing and Human Torch added to this graphic. Anyway, guys, it's that time of the video. Subscribe if you have not. We have about 90% of you guys watching the content. Not subscribed, trying to get to 100K would be a sick accomplishment here on the channel. Do mastery guides, casting, everything in between. You guys won't be let down. Anyway, have a good one. Have a great one. Till the next one. Happy arriving.